So today we're going to be looking at this limit, right? We are not done with our limit, so we are revising as much as possible. So this is N5 mathematics limits, which is question 1. This paper was written 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So as you can see, that there are two fractions separating each other. So the first rule is we must have a single fraction before we use these limits where x is approaching 3, and then we try to check using it. So we're going to make sure that it is a single fraction. So we're going to be looking for our LCD. So we bring back our lim as x approaching 3, and what we have in here is x minus 3 into ln x minus 2, right? So this must be in bracket, and then having something like this. So this into this ln and ln will go, and then we're going to be left with x minus 3, and then we times by 1 over there, so it's x minus 3 in bracket, right? So this into this is this one, and this one is going to cancel each other, and then we're going to be left with ln of x minus 2. So with something it by 1, so it's ln of x minus 2, right? Something like this. Now we're having a single fraction. We can now check using this limit over here. So if we put 3 in the place of x, right? So we put 3 is going to be 0 here, x minus 2 is going to be 1, ln 1 is going to be 0, so 0 minus 0 is 0. So at the top we're having 0, at the bottom is we put 3 over here, it's going to 3 minus 3 is going to be 0, and then we multiply the whole thing, it becomes a 0, so 0 over 0, right? So now we have to differentiate the numerator and we differentiate the denominator as usual. So we bring back our limit, right? Lim x approaches 3. So if we differentiate the top parts per term, right? So we have this single term over here, and then we have this, right? So if we differentiate this, it's going to be a 1 here, because if we're differentiating an x, it's just going to give us a 1, right? And then 3 is just a constant, minus, right? If we differentiate a ln of x minus 2, it's going to be 1 over x minus 2 times by something with a derivative of something with x, which is 1. So it's more like with something by 1, and then we just get the same thing. So this is all over. Now we're deriving the denominator, right? So at the denominator we're having two fractions, two equations that are multiplying each other, where there is an x minus 3 in brackets, and then there is a ln of x minus 3. It is different as something that is maybe like 3, maybe ln of x minus 2, right? In this case, this 3 is multiplying the whole thing, but the 3 doesn't have an x, so we are not going to be using the product rule here, because this term which is multiplying this term is not having an x. So these are not two equations separating it, timesing, multiplying each other, right? It's just a constant and an equation. Here, as you can see, we have an x minus 3, so there is an x here and there is an x here. So these are two equations multiplying each other, and then we're going to be applying the product rule in this case, right? So if we derive this first term and then we bring back this, so the derivative of this is going to be a 1, and then we bring back this, so we're going to be having our ln of x minus 2, and which is multiplied by the derivative of this thing, which is a 1, and then we bring back this. Now we have to add, and then we bring back what we derived first, and then we derive the second thing, which we did not, which we brought back at the first place. So we are now bringing back x minus 3, right? We are deriving this guy over here, which is a 1 over x minus 2, right? Times by a derivative of something with x, which is going to be a 1, and then it's going to give us 1 and the same thing. So I'm just going to put a bracket here, and we just close like this, right? So now, right, we have derived and then we have to check using our limit because we have applied the derivative at the numerator and at the denominator. So if we put 3 over here minus 2, what is this? 3 minus 2 is going to be a 1, right? So 1 over 1 is going to be a 1. 1 minus 1 is going to be a 0. So at the top, we're having a 0. At the bottom is, if we put 3 here, it's going to be 3 minus 2, which is 1. Then 1 is going to be a 0. So x here is, put 3 over here, minus, so it's going to be a 0. And then you multiply by this thing, it's going to be a 0 over here, right? So 0 and 0. So we still have to derive. So we bring back our limit as x approaches 3. Now, if we derive this first term over here, it's going to be a 0 minus. If we derive this second term, we just have to bring this thing up before we even derive it. So it's going to be something like this. So this is just 1 over, right? So it's 1 over x minus 2, right? So its derivative is going to be, so we're going to first bring this denominator to the top so that you can derive it. So now we have to apply the is it the chain rule? I think it's the chain rule. It's something like, yeah, is it the chain rule? I'm not sure what does it called. I'm just going to remember it as we go, but feel free to remind me at the comments. So now we're going to take this at the bottom. I think it's a power rule, yeah. So we're going to taking this at the bottom, so minus 1 over here, and then x minus 2 in bracket, right? And then we subtract a 1 from this one, which is going to be a negative 2, right? Times by something with x, which is going to be a 1. So we're going to have something like x minus 2 power negative 2. And then you know that you don't leave the negative exponent, so it's going to be a negative 1 over x minus 2 squared. This is the final answer on this derivative, right? And then we take this whole thing back over here, but remember it is affected by this negative, so it's going to be a positive product, right? So 1 over 2 squared, right? At the top we have derived the numerator all over. If we derive this thing, it's going to be a 1 over this one over here, so it's going to be 1 over let me try to focus here, yeah. So it's 1 over x minus 2, and then it times by a 1, which is going to be this thing, and then plus this is more like a fraction, right? If you take this thing at the top, so we're going to solve it aside, right? It is something like this, as it is a multiplication sign, right? So you're going to take it to the top. So x, so we're going to be applying quotient rule on this one. So if I derive the first term and then bring back this, okay, I'm going to derive the numerator and then bring this denominator as it is. So if we derive this thing, is going to be a 1, right? And then we bring the numerator as it is, which is times by 1, right? What else we need to do is that we need to subtract according to the formula, right? Right, so now we have to subtract, right? So minus, and then we have brought this back. Now we have to derive it, and then we bring this back, which we derived at the first place, right? So we have to bring it back, x minus 3, and then we derive this part, which is going to be 1 all over. You know that you square the denominator here, so x minus 2 squared. So this is the final thing, and then we take it back over here, right? So we're having an x minus 2 in bracket minus x minus 3 in bracket all over x minus 2 squared, right? So this is the biggest division sign. So we're having something like this. So we have derived the numerator and then we have derived the denominator. So it's time to check. I know maybe we just have to simplify this, but you know, it's fine. We have derived the numerator and the denominator. Now we have to check. So if you put 3 over here, 3 minus 2 is going to be a 1. 1 squared is going to be a 1. 1 over 1. So at the top, we're getting a 1 now. So we're getting somewhere. So if you put 3 over here, 3 minus 2 is going to be a 1. 1. So it's 1 over here, right? So it's 1, and then you put 3. Okay, let me put this one over here. 3 minus 2 is going to be 1, and then this is a negative. Oh, okay, let me start here. 3 minus 3 is going to be a 0 here, right? So it is a 0 here. So we're going to have a 1 over here, and then over here it's going to be, so it's 1 over 1, so it's plus, it's plus 1, right? As you can see, it's plus 1, so it is 1 over 2. This is the final answer on this equation. So this is it, right, on this limit. Thank you. We're going to see each other next video.